In Smith's Canadian Gazetteer, Canada West, published in 1846, William H. Smith declared that he was induced to undertake the task by the great ignorance which he found to exist respecting the province, not only amongst persons in Great Britain or newly arrived emigrants, but even amongst many of those who had been for years resident in the country. Port Sarnia he described as a village in the township of Sarnia, handsomely situated on the St. Clair River, opposite the American village of Port Huron, near the entrance to Lake Huron. This is the last place on the Canadian side at which the American steamers touch on their route to the upper lakes. The village was laid out by private individuals in the year 1833 and has increased rapidly and must in time become a place of great importance. An excellent road is formed from this place to the town of London, and stages run from Port Sarnia to London 3 times a week. The American steamboats Hercules, Samson, Princeton, and St. Louis stop regularly for passengers to and from Buffalo and Chicago, and the Huron and Red Jacket leave here every morning alternately for Detroit. Several other American boats call occasionally. During the last season, the British steamer Gore from Windsor to Goderich and Gloucester Bay also called here regularly. There is a fishery just above the village, on the banks of Point Edward, and upwards of 1,000 barrels of fish are generally exported annually. Port Sarnia contains 5 churches and chapels: Episcopal, Catholic, Presbyterian, Methodist, and Congregational. 5 schooners are owned here. There is a sawmill on the river, worked by means of a canal, 3.5 miles in length, fed by the Riviere au Perche, and a grist mill and foundry have recently been erected. Port Sarnia is a port of entry and has a resident collector of customs. Post office posts 3 times a week. Population about 420. Professions and trades: 1 physician and surgeon, 1 druggist, 2 tanneries, 1 foundry, steam grist mill, 1 sawmill, 8 stores, 1 saddler, 1 tinsmith, 3 blacksmiths, 1 wheelwright, 2 taverns, 2 chair makers, 1 cabinet maker, 3 tailors, 2 bakers, 1 cooper, 3 shoemakers, 3 schools, 1 of which is for Indians. Principal tavern, Sarnia Exchange. Agent for steamboats, George Durand. Port Sarnia is 61 miles from London, 70 miles from Detroit, about 65 miles from Goderich, and 60 miles from Chatham. A new road is about to be opened from Port Sarnia to the River Sydenham. Stage fare to London, $3. Steamboat fare to Detroit, $1.75. This township is well watered. The Riviere au Perche, which takes its rise in Enniskillen, runs through the township till it reaches Lake Wawenosh, which enters at its western side about 6 miles from Port Sarnia, and emerges again at its southeast corner, entering Lake Huron about 11 miles above Port Sarnia. Lake Wawenosh, the nearest point of which is a half mile from Lake Huron, contains about 2,000 acres, average depth 6 to 8 feet, surrounded by prairie land. Lake Chippewa, a small lake about 6 acres in size, is separated from Lake Huron by a ridge of high land, 2 miles north from Port Sarnia. A ridge of sandy land, forming what are called Oak Ridges, about 1 mile in width, extend from Port Sarnia along the shore of Lake Huron to nearly the extremity of the township. The back of the township is good land. A point of land called Point Edward, containing about 1,000 acres, which is a military reserve, runs into the St. Clair just above Port Sarnia, at the entrance of Lake Huron. This is said by the old inhabitants to have been formerly an island, but the north portion of the channel on the side of it has become filled up, connecting with the mainland and forming a fine bay sheltered on the northeast and west. Population exclusive of Indians, 610. Rateable property in the township, 8,472 pounds.